The word landed heavier than the steel doors behind her. Useless. Admiral Carter Hale didn't shout it. He said it flatly, almost casually, in a room full of officers who had learned to measure their worth in medals and missions. Lieutenant Arya Vale stood at attention near the far wall, the low hum of servers vibrating faintly through the command center floor. No one spoke for her. Before I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing who is listening. Rain lashed against the reinforced windows of the naval carrier, streaking the glass in restless patterns. Inside, tension crackled sharper than the storm. A classified training operation had been compromised, encrypted communications intercepted. Someone had failed, and in moments like that, someone had to be blamed. She spends her time behind screens, the Admiral continued, pacing slowly, while others trained for real combat. Arya kept her gaze forward. She had heard variations of this before. The quiet ones were always suspect. The analysts, the coders, the unseen. Inside, though doubt stirred, was she hiding behind screens? She remembered her first year in intelligence, long nights decoding fragments of hostile chatter while the rest of her cohort trained outdoors. She had wondered then if she'd chosen the safer road, if she would always be considered less, but safety had never been the goal, prevention had. The Admiral stopped in front of her. Tell me, Lieutenant, when systems collapse and enemies advance, what exactly do you contribute? A beat of silence. My job, she said evenly, is to make sure they never advance. A few officers exchanged glances. The Admiral's jaw tightened. We need warriors, not theories. He dismissed her with a curt nod. The meeting ended, but the word lingered. Useless. Arya returned to her dim operations bay below deck, where screens glowed in soft blue light and cables ran like veins along the ceiling. This was her battlefield, invisible, uncelebrated. She logged into a secure terminal using credentials known only to a handful of top intelligence officials. A separate identity posed beneath layers of encryption, one no one on this carrier knew about. Shadow Viper. For 3 years, she had operated under that name in classified cyber theaters. She had dismantled digital weapon systems before launch, traced financial pipelines funding insurgencies, neutralized attacks that would have cost lives long before boots ever hits, and no medals, no applause, just quiet victories, as if summoned by fate itself. Warning alarms pierced the calm. Multiple screens flashed red. Unauthorized breach detected, the system warned. The storm outside intensified, thunder rolling like distant artillery. Officers scrambled in the command center above. Communications glitched. Navigation systems flickered. Arya's pulse slowed. She recognized the attack signature, instantly layered infiltration designed to overwhelm and paralyze. Whoever launched it knew exactly how to strike a carrier blind. Without waiting for orders, she began typing. Her fingers moved with fluid precision, weaving through digital corridors like a dancer through shadow. She isolated corrupted nodes, traced backdoors, injected counter code disguised as vulnerability. Upstairs, confusion mounted. Where's this coming from? We're losing control of navigation. In the dim glow below deck, Arya built a trap. Shadow Viper had faced this adversary before, not in person, but in patterns, in code that carried ego in its complexity. She mirrored their architecture, fed them false access, let them believe they were winning. Then she collapsed their entry points all at once. On the main deck, screens blinked back to life, navigation stabilized, communications restored, silence replaced panic. Moments later, a secure call reached Admiral Hale. His expression shifted as he listened. Yes. I understand, he said slowly. He ended the call and looked around the room, unsettled. We've just been informed, he announced, that the operative known as Shadow Viper intercepted and neutralized tonight's breach. Murmurs spread. That operative, he continued carefully, is stationed on this carrier. His eyes moved, searching. They found her as she stepped into the command center doorway. No dramatic entrance, no declaration, just calm. You? He asked, disbelief softening into something else. Arya met his gaze. Yes, sir. The weight of his earlier words seemed to hang between them. Useless. The room watched closely. Power had shifted not through confrontation, but through proof. The Admiral straightened. Why wasn't I informed? Compartmentalized clearance, she replied. Need to know. A flicker of humility crossed his face. There was a moment, brief but significant, when she could have let him feel small, could have reminded him of the insult. Instead, she said quietly, we all fight differently, sir. The storm outside began to ease. Rain softened against glass. Hale nodded once. It appears I misjudged you. Yes, sir, she answered, not bitterly. Simply truthful. Later that night, Arya stood alone on the outer deck, wind tugging at her uniform as clouds parted to reveal fractured stars. The ocean stretched endless and dark. She didn't need recognition. She needed the mission secure, the crew safe, and she knew now that doubt, when met with action instead of anger, became something powerful. The truth is undeniable. Strength is not always visible. Sometimes the most dangerous warriors operate in silence, and sometimes the shadows are where courage does its finest work. If this story resonated with you, tell me where you're watching from and share your thoughts below. Subscribe to Cinematic Whispers for more stories about hidden strength, and don't miss the next revelation waiting in the dark.